Hi, welcome to math. We are starting chapter 1, lesson 1. This is place value through the millions. So we're going to start by looking at a place value chart. Let me pull my chart up here. So you should be able to see it and make sure you pay careful attention because part of this is on your notes. So we have different place value. Now you've talked about place value since honestly probably kindergarten. So it's probably nothing new. We're just going to review some of these ones in here, trick people up, not usually, hopefully not usually these ones, but some over here, people get confused and forget. You've got to make sure you know these for the whole entire year. So first up, we always start over here with the ones column. So we have the ones column first, then we go to tens, then hundreds, then we always put a comma in between the hundreds and thousands. Then we have 10,000s, 100,000s, followed by another comma, of course, and millions. And that's as far as this one goes. You would then start over, and just like this was the thousands, and then you go to 10,000s. Over here, you would have millions, and then 10 millions, 100 millions. It goes on and on and on like that. Then you get to billions, trillions, all of that good stuff. So we're just going to look at these for now, place value through the millions. Now, one term that you might not be familiar with is what we call a period. Now, a lot of times you might think, well, that's a decimal, but it really isn't. A period in place value is actually three numbers that are grouped together. So these three right here, notice that they start us off and there's three numbers in a row, and that's called a period. We have a comma, and then another period. So any three numbers, usually like in between two commas, is what we call the period. Now, this number in the millions over here is not a full period because we would have to have the 10 millions and the 1,000 millions. So, there's our one term. We're going to go ahead and look at an example now. I have this number up here. So we're going to talk a little bit about it. First off, we're going to look at the place value of it. Now, there's a difference between the place and the place value. So if I say something, show me the place of it, that would be a little bit different than place value. Don't lose me yet. Let's look at this 6. All right, I underlined just that 6, and we're going to look at it. The 6, the place of the 6 is actually just 6. It's the number. Okay, that's just whatever's in that place. But I'm sure you know that that 6 actually doesn't mean just 6. It's actually 6 times the value of it. And since it's in the tens position, that would be times 10, which would actually give us 60. So it has a place value of 60, but the actual just place is 6. Okay, let's do another one here. I want to remind you that if at any time you get lost, you can always pause the video and rewind. So if I go too fast, it's up to you to just pause and rewind a little bit, okay? Up next, let's look at this 2. The place is just the number, which is 2, but the place value is actually that 2 times the position that it's in. So let's see, ones, tens, hundreds, thousands. So it's actually, we have to times it by 1,000. So that place value is actually 2,000. When you put numbers in a string like this, all of a sudden the value of that 5 changes. It's not just a 5 anymore. So we always have to remember the place value of the numbers. Okay. All right, our next thing that we're looking at is different forms. You'll see over here I have our 3 forms that we're talking about. We have a word form, a standard form, and an expanded form. So word form is just where you write the number in words. Pretty easy. We're going to look at this example again. The word form for this number We start over here, and we're going to go ahead and say this whole period together, this part that we have. So it would be 52, got to hyphenate that, 52, and then that 2 falls in the thousands, so we say thousands. Then we say 900. And then we have 60 and a 0, so 60. All right, so word form for this number would be 52,000, thousand, not thousands, 960, and that's exactly how we write this. Now, one thing I want to point out is sometimes people do this, 52,000 and 960, and actually means a decimal point. So we don't ever want to write that in these unless we actually have a decimal point, which we'll get to decimals a little bit later in the year. So definitely do not put any ands unless there's a decimal. All right, standard form is actually the one you're probably most familiar with. Just go ahead and show you, boom. This is standard form. We write most of our numbers in standard form, so 52,960. Not bad at all. And expanded form. This is where we have to look at the place and the place value. So expanded form is the one that honestly gets the longest. It will take you the longest amount of time usually. So you're going to start by writing out all of your numbers. And I always write them vertical. So 5, 2, 9, 6, and 0. And we'll talk about that 0. Okay? Now, again, these are our places. Now we're doing the place value. So we're going to look at 5 times whatever place it's in, which would be the 10,000. The 2 is in the thousands, so we have to multiply it by 1,000. The 9 is in the hundreds. The 6 is in the tens. And the 0 is in the ones. Okay. Now, to show that they're all together, we actually have to do one more thing. We have to add them up. So put a little plus sign at the end of each one. Oh, I guess we don't need one at the end. That would be an equal sign there. So that we can see the whole thing. Now, some of you are going to want to write them all on one line, and that's totally fine. I just like to, the first couple times I show them, list them out like this. All right, so those are our 3 forms. Now we're going to go through an example of all 3 so you can get the hang of it. So here we go. Here's another example. We're going to make it kind of difficult. Let's do this number. All right. Now this is already in standard form, so I'll just draw my arrow because that's already standard form. Now we have to look at how to read this number, and I always, as I read it, then go ahead and write it in word form. So we have 92. So I start by just reading that first part in front of the comma, which is like our period. So 90 and 2, we hyphenate that. 92, what spot was that in? This one was the millions. So 92 million, comma, we're going to start our next period. 955, so 900. 55, and we have to hyphenate that 55. Now, what spot is that in? 955 thousands, and I'm going to go ahead and bring it down to the next line so you can see it a little bit better. and then a comma, and then our last part, our last period, and then 793. There we go. Notice there's one word that I didn't put in there at all, which is the word and. Don't ever use it unless you have a decimal. All right, so there's our word form. Now expanded form. This one's going to be quite long, so I'm going to start up here, as close up here as I can get. All right, first I'm going to just list out all my numbers. 9, 2, 9, 5, 5, 7, 9, 3. And that's just my place. That's not actually the place value. Okay, up next, I have to look and I have to say, whew, what spot is that in? Well, that's actually in the 10 million. So I'm going to have a 10, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Whew, these are going to get long. All right, that 2 is in the million spot. So we've got 6 zeros there. Oh, I'm forgetting my plus signs because we're adding all these together. This 9 is in the hundred thousands. So it's got 5 zeros, plus sign. This 5 is in the 10,000s. So 4 zeros. This next 5 is in the thousands. 3 zeros. 7 is in the hundreds. 9 is in the tens. And the 3 is in the ones. And that would be equal. And it equals this lovely standard form number. All right, now I forgot to mention earlier, I'll give you a second, make sure you've got all of that down, pause if you need. Now I forgot to mention earlier, what about that 0? So let's go back and look at, oh, let's just do an easy one. Let's just start with like 500. Okay, now what do you do about the 0? Actually, I'm going to change my number. 501. Okay. So what do I do about that 0 for my expanded form? Now, it would be your 5 times 100, your 0 times your 10, and your 1 times your 1. Now, because we all know that 0 times anything is always going to be 0, if you want, you could write this one like this. You could just write it as 5 times 100 plus 1 times 1. And that be your 501. So it's up to you on whether or not you want to add the zeros. If it helps you to add it in that place, it's totally fine. If you don't want to add it in, that's fine too. Okay, so for your homework and what you'll be doing, you will be working on writing numbers in word form, standard form, expanded form. You'll also have to make sure you know what a period is, what place versus place value means. So definitely hope this video will help you out.
You know, numbers change when you move them around. Listen, you could have a 1 in the hundreds place, and a 1 in the tens place, and a 1 in the ones place. That's 111. You could have a 3 in the hundreds place, and a 2 in the tens place, and a 1 in the ones place. That's 321. Yeah. You could have a 5 in the hundreds place, and a 9 in the tens place, and a 3 in the ones place. That's 593. You could have a 6 in the hundreds place, and a 6 in the tens place, and an 8 in the ones place. That's 668. Yeah, if you're listening, you know the game. Not all numbers are the same. Values change the place, okay? We move a number, switch a number, drop a number, flip a number. If you're listening, you know the game. Not all numbers are the same. Values change in the place, okay? We move a number, switch a number, drop a number, flip a number. You could have a 9 in the hundreds place, and a 4 in the tens place, and a 2 in the ones place. That's 942. You could have a 3 in the hundreds place, and a 0 in the tens place, and a 9 in the ones place. That's 309. You could have a 1 in the hundreds place, and a 5 in the tens place, and a 5 in the ones place. That's 155. Yeah. You could have an F to the L to the O, and a C and an A and a B, and a U and an L and an A, all WASP vocabulary. If you're listening, you know the game. Not all numbers are the same. Values change to the place, okay? We move a number, switch a number, drop a number, flip a number. If you're listening, you know the game. Not all numbers are the same. Values change to the place, okay? We move a number, switch a number, drop a number, flip a number. Yeah, if you're listening, you know the game. Not all numbers are the same. Values change to the place, okay? We move a number, switch a number, drop a number, flip a number.